citywide, the 3rd precinct has been compromised.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Great Reset 2.0. In my last video last year in September of 2020, I did a deep dive to uncover the hidden truths behind the Great Reset initiative. In the months of study that I did on the Great Reset initiative, I uncovered some uncomfortable truths about the partnerships and sponsors. What I discovered was that most of these partners were in fact some of the largest financial institutions on the planet, all apparently coming together to help with a green energy movement. In that video, I explained how large financial institutions are actually for-profit organizations and really would have little interest in a green energy revolution. My original video and thesis was unfortunately heavily attacked by the mainstream media companies, with them even featuring it on primetime television, showing people how to report the video and some of my other videos as fake news and conspiracy theory. So I'm sure it will come as no surprise to many of you that the original video was banned, even though it has more than 800,000 views, which were racked up in a very quick period of time. So in order to avoid a repeat of last time and having this video banned, I have only sourced the reference material today from YouTube itself. So if this video is not permitted, then it says a lot about all of the reference material that I have gathered. So let's begin then with some promotional clips from the World Economic Forum themselves.
Throughout this great nation, never have we been more unified.
What's that? It's the wrong clip. Sorry, it's so hard to tell these clips apart these days. Here's the correct one for you.
And the time to act is now.
The pandemic has radically changed the world as we know it, and the actions we take today as we work to recover will define our generation.
Here.
With everything falling apart, we can reshape the world in ways we couldn't before, ways that better address so many of the challenges we face. And that's why so many are calling for a great reset.
So I've got to pause the video here. Who is calling for a great reset? I don't know any of these many people. And believe me, I know a lot of people. So if you are one of these people calling for a great reset, please drop me a comment below, because I just don't know anyone calling for a great reset.
A great reset? That sounds more like buzzword bingo masking some nefarious plan for world domination. Hands up, this kind of slogan hasn't gone down well. But all we really want to say is that...
Okay, I've got to pause again here. Are you seeing the subliminal messages even within this video? It says obey. Let me just play it again and look at it.
But all we really want to say is that we all have an opportunity to build a better world. And it's not surprising that people who've been disenfranchised by a broken system and pushed even further by the pandemic will suspect global leaders of conspiracy.
Conspiracy, conspiracy,
Conspiracy.
Now, I think most of you know me by now. I'm a very logical, follow the information, follow the data, follow the facts kind of guy. So I personally think if there's smoke, there's usually fire. So of course, everything is being labeled a conspiracy right now. But when you have many of the most powerful world leaders all repeating the same phrase from the World Economic Forum, it sort of gives a little bit of validity to the argument.
It's a big effort to, some would say, to build back better. We would say to really have a great reset.
Build back better.
On building back better.
Build back better than before.
Build back better.
Build back better.
And build back better than before.
And building back better.
Build back better.
To build back better.
To build back better.
Build back better.
To build back better.
Build back from this global pandemic.
Build back better.
Building back better.
To build back better.
Build it back better.
Build it back better.
Build back better.
Build back in a positive way.
Build back better.
Building this country back better.
Together we can fix this. Let's build back better.
Build back better or whatever.
See, even Greta isn't sure about it. Or could all of this conspiracy theory talk be actually stemming from one major event that took place in October of 2019, just 2 months before the pandemic actually broke out? And most of the population still aren't even aware of Event 201.
A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
Public health agencies have issued travel advisories, while some countries have banned travel from the worst affected areas. As a result, the travel sector is taking a huge hit. Travel bookings are down 45%, and many flights have been canceled. A ripple effect is racing through the service sector. Governments that rely on travel and tourism as a large part of their economies are being hit particularly hard.
We are not out of money yet. But the fact is we are trending in a dangerous direction and something needs to change.
So the policy question for this board now is, how should financial resources be prioritized? Are there nodes that we cannot allow to fail? What is your sense of priorities? We don't have money to pay for all of these urgent problems.
Countries are reacting in different ways as to how best to manage the overwhelming amounts of dis and misinformation circulating over the internet. In some cases, limited internet shutdowns are being implemented to quell panic. Limited internet shutdowns.
We're at a moment where the social media platforms have to step forward and recognize the moment to assert that they're a technology platform and not a broadcaster is over. They, in fact, have to be a participant in broadcasting accurate information and partnering with the scientific and health communities to counterweight, if not flood the zone, of accurate information. Because to put the genie back in the bottle of the misinformation and disinformation is nigh impossible.
The outcome of the CAPS pandemic in Event 201 was catastrophic. The outbreak was small at first and initially seemed controllable, but then it started spreading in densely crowded and impoverished neighborhoods of megacities. From that point on, the spread of the disease was explosive. Within 6 months, cases were occurring in nearly every country. The global economy was in a free fall. The GDP down 11%. Stock markets around the world plummeted between 20 and 40% and headed into a downward cycle of fear and low expectation. Economists say the economic turmoil caused by such a pandemic will last for years, perhaps a decade. The societal impacts, the loss of faith in government, the distrust of news, and the breakdown of social cohesion could last even longer.
Well, that was weird to watch. And just to quell any conspiracy theorists that might pop up over that event, the World Economic Forum actually put out a video statement to explain how this coincidence occurred.
And the reason we called it Event 201 is we knew eventually one of those days, one of those events would be the big one.
Okay, because that makes perfect sense. Naming it Event 201 because they knew one of those days could be the big one. even though it's been over 100 years since the last global pandemic of 1918. Look, I'm not here to point any fingers. I'm just providing the information. You can make your own decisions on such matters.
Participants are confronted by a hypothetical scenario that presents to them the challenges of a response. So we will say, here's a hypothetical disease outbreak. We knew before COVID that the world was underprepared for biological risk.
So because obviously this gained so much attention, not media attention, but public attention, they were forced to put out a statement to explain the coincidence here. And I'm going to read that statement to you here. It says, in October 2019, the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security hosted a pandemic tabletop exercise called Event 201 with partners the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Recently, the Center for Health Security has received questions about whether that pandemic exercise predicted the current outbreak. To be clear, the Center for Health Security and partners did not make a prediction during the exercise. For the scenario, we modeled a fictional coronavirus pandemic, but we explicitly stated that it was not a prediction. Okay, well, I'm glad that clears that up. And of course, now we have the whole lab theory rearing its head again, and here's the latest media coverage of that.
In a statement, the president saying the intelligence community has coalesced around two likely scenarios. First, that the virus arose from human contact with an infected animal. And second, that it resulted from a laboratory accident.
The accident theory regained traction this week after a U.S. intelligence report found that 3 lab staffers in Wuhan were hospitalized with COVID-like symptoms in November of 2019, though it's not clear they had COVID.
Wuhan also has China's only biosafety level 4 super laboratory that works with the world's most deadly pathogens to include, yes, coronavirus.
Some conspiracy theories developed claiming the virus was released or manufactured in Wuhan on purpose, which experts fully rule out.
Everything about the stepwise evolution over time strongly indicates that it evolved in nature and then jumped species.
18 months into this pandemic, and no one can show where this virus came from.
NBC News gained exclusive access to the lab in 2020.
Has anyone at the lab, either personnel or connected to the lab, a third-party contractor, tested positive for this virus?
No.
Earlier this week, a joint World Health Organization and Chinese report called it extremely unlikely the virus escaped from a lab.
So it seems that we're still no clearer to finding out the origin of the outbreak. But we should probably move off of this topic and on to more pressing concerns, such as some of the things that I predicted more than 15 months ago now to occur, such as world hunger and starvation. And if you could, please, I would really appreciate if you click the like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this video far and wide. Thank you.
This is one of the busiest highways leading to Delhi. Tens of thousands of farmers from the northern states of India have marched to the capital city to protest farming reforms. This is all happening because Prime Minister Modi's government has passed new farming laws that will change how the agricultural industry has worked for decades. And in a country of 1.4 billion people, where agricultural workers make up half of the labor force, the repercussions of those laws could be devastating.
This is now one of the biggest protest movements in the world.
It was only 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that I said to everyone there's going to be panic buy-in, food shortages. But a lot of people were like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about and all this sort of business. And look, honestly, let me just go back. There is nothing. There's nothing in the entire store. There's not even fruit and vegetables. Look. What on earth? Okay, this is bakery, so breads and things. Just in case anyone thinks I'm joking or whatever, I'm honestly not. There's literally nothing. I feel bad for any old people who can't even get out, because people are just, look, panic buying. It's just stripped. There's nothing. Can you believe this? Biggest supermarket or Tesco in Europe, and it's empty. There's like nothing here. I've never seen anything like it.
Welcome to the 74th Annual Hunger Games!
So last year I laid out my thesis as to why food prices would rise as much as double in some developing nations within the next 18 months. We're now 15 to 16 months into that prediction, and already food prices are spiraling out of control. I explained how the rich would get richer and the poor would get poorer, leading to malnutrition, hunger, and famine throughout most of the developing world.
Things are becoming very expensive. The food is going higher because the other countries, they're keeping this food for themselves.
This one now, before the coronavirus, they are selling the Derica 250, and now it's 400.
Almost every day, people are knocking on my door, begging for food, begging for support.
Africa is currently facing the worst food crisis since 1945. According to the UN, more than 20 million people in sub-Saharan Africa are facing starvation.
My children didn't eat for 3 days and then died because their mother couldn't feed them. I know it was the famine that killed them.
The United Nations has raised alarm over the unprecedented food crisis in southern Africa. 45 million people face severe shortages, according to the World Food Programme. Zimbabwe is the worst hit, with 7.7 million people, that's half the population, suffering severe food shortages. And 1/5 of the population in Zambia, a regional breadbasket, is struggling to feed itself.
1 head of cabbage, some cooking oil, a little bit of salt, and about 3 cups of rice is all Emma Kajiri has left in her kitchen. She says she'll have to make it last as long as possible to feed her family of 8. More than 8 million Zimbabweans will not have enough food by December if there's no urgent intervention. That's roughly 60% of the population.
150 million people in 55 countries are in crisis. That's an increase of around 20 million people from 2019. People in Burkina Faso, South Sudan, and Yemen are also facing a catastrophe and need urgent action to prevent widespread death and total collapse of livelihoods. Thousands of people are also dying of hunger in Yemen, South Sudan, and northern Nigeria.
The food crisis is getting worse. We pray to God to bring these to an end.
In sub-Saharan Africa, where most of the world's food insecure live, the situation is only getting worse, punishing countries that did little to cause the problem.
There was food, it was rotting in the farms.
Charity is the safe place of the world's oppressors.
To suppress local food production continues today through structural adjustment programs imposed on African countries by the IMF and World Bank, as well as opening up access to African markets for American and European food producers. They forced African governments to eliminate subsidies for their own farmers.
Once proud farmers and herders have now been reduced to depending on foreign aid.
The World Food Programme says there has been no response to an appeal it made for humanitarian help for people facing hunger in Madagascar. More than 1 million people in southern Madagascar will need food aid this year.
C'est un programme qui est mis en place par Rockefeller et Melinda et Bill Gates. Quand ils vont partout, c'est avec leurs ressources financières qu'ils prennent.
And Kenya has rejected a COVID loan due to the exploitative terms. Public consciousness of IMF exploitation is also growing.
The UN's appealed for $76 million to address the crisis. Has that money come through?
No, this flash appeal, as it is called,
has been launched together by the United Nations and the international community and the government of Madagascar. But so far, we didn't see any result at all.
At this point in the video, I would really like to just raise awareness here and to ask if any of you are fortunate enough to have any spare funds at this present time, please, please do whatever you can to help these people in these nations. I understand that not everyone is in a fortunate position right now and you may be suffering yourself, but if you can help, there are two main ways that you can do so. Number one is to send any food or money that you can to these reputable organizations that are in the countries on the ground trying to help alleviate this food crisis. And number two is to help and offer your support to these international organizations now directly within predominantly the African nations trying to break away from these international financial institutions and private banking corporations which really are holding the African people hostage right now.
All right. We're going to find out what we do about this.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up, please remember that united we stand and divided we fall. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this content, and make sure to share this video far and wide with your network for anyone that needs to see it. Thank you all for watching today, and God bless.